Hello and welcome to the Busy Bays podcast, where we provide valuable insight and advice on the marketing and other business type questions that auto repair shops encounter as they work towards achieving their goals. Now here's our hosts, Martin Morgan and Bekah Hackley.
So Martin, I was actually thinking, and if we had $1 for every time we've heard how busy a shop is over these last few months, we would absolutely be sitting in a yacht recording this podcast on the Caribbean.
That's pretty funny, Bekah, but it is not false. I think that is definitely true. And we have certainly heard, and probably all the way back to the beginning of 2021, about how busy shops are out there. And it seems, many different locations across the U.S., parts of Canada, specialized shops, general auto repair. It definitely seems like busyness is the current status. And you got to figure as things have opened up, a fair amount of it is related to that. People are out, they're driving their cars more, they want to get out and do more, and now they're freed up to do some of those things. And as a result, they're bringing their vehicles into the shop to make sure everything's good to go.
Yeah, even the roads are getting more hectic and crazy. I make jokes to my husband about maybe some people forgot how to drive because they haven't been out for so long.
Here's the trick with that, Bekah. I'm not sure they ever knew how to drive, but maybe you're being kinder about it.
So people are getting back to normal, and being busy is usually a really good thing. A lot of shops say, like, okay, work is work. They're grateful to have their bays so full. But a lot of them are telling us that they are working on every service under the sun, and it's not always things that they would like to be working on. And so that's not really always what it's all chalked up to be super busy.
That's definitely true. And oftentimes, and we've probably said it before on this podcast, a good question to ask as a shop owner or a shop manager is, are you doing the work that's most profitable for your business?
And most profitable, what does your team specialize in? What can you get in your doors efficiently and do a nice job and get them out timely too? That's a really big part, to think about your team, like how effective they can be at XYZ in their type of jobs.
That's definitely a good point as well.
Now is the time that you need to start targeting work that you really enjoy, that's most profitable. How can you get the most bang for your buck type of thing?
Definitely. And the nice thing is it's coming from a point of strength. So if you are busy, you can be a little choosier. You can do things to try to attract more of that type of business that you want to get. But there are definitely a lot of shop owners who are hesitant to do that. But really, now is a good time to certainly start thinking about it.
Well, in any way that you can just kind of like lighten the load, take the busy work, I guess, off your shoulders and really focus on specific things as a shop. Do you specialize in anything? What are you known for within your community? Have like those roots, those real true things that your shop stands for, just gotten lost in like the hubbub of the hustle and bustle of cars coming in and out of your shop?
And that's a great starting point, Bekah. When we talk to shops about those things, as you know, a lot of times we'll ask them about specialization related to different services. And some of them are very clear, like oftentimes you have specific transmission shops, so you might have tire shops. And some are a little less clear.
Yeah.
Right. And then also makes and models. And again, there are some that are more clear. We have European or German or certainly BMW and some that might be a little less clear. But for those that are a little hesitant to make that sort of move, one of the things I would encourage you is what happens is that shops, and it's true for lots of businesses, right? So you'll try to be everything to everybody, but instead what ends up happening is you're nothing to nobody. And that's the worst position you could be in.
yeah, they take it for granted, I feel like. So they'll just call, and it doesn't matter if it's like a low little inspection, oil change type of thing, when you could be working on these bigger types of jobs that maybe you would be more apt to enjoy for the books financially and
Yes.
the service itself. We can say that, we're sitting here on a podcast chit chatting away. We can say that really easily, like that you need to focus on this and that and whatever. But how can a shop actually target their marketing to bring in those specific type of work?
Well, I think you did mention a great point there, Bekah. It is true. We're saying that, like you said, from a podcast where we're trying to help, and we certainly understand it can be a lot more difficult when you're in the shoes, when you are the shop owner making these decisions, because every decision holds a lot of weight. But when you think about the marketing that you do, or how what could you do if you decided, hey, I do want to attract more of these types of services because they're more profitable, or they're really right in the wheelhouse of the talent that we have here at our shop. I think those things are advantageous, and that's a really good way to think. And I had mentioned not trying to be everything to everybody, but things like specialization and differentiation, they can all give you a competitive advantage. So when you think about that, you first, you want to determine what are those things. Maybe it's related to profitability, maybe it's related to skills, the talents, experience that you have in your shop. But I'd encourage you to think through, if you decided that you wanted to specialize somewhat, or identify what those things are. Make a list of 3 to 5 things and think through, okay, what are those things we could really specialize in that would really set our shop apart from the other shops in town?
Being logical about it, like not just jumping into the pool head first, but really taking a look at what your service, what your team can offer, and start there to get a really good grasp on what you want to focus on.
Absolutely, because you will be more likely to attract that type of business. And let's use an example that sits right where we operate. But we would say this, as advice to be helpful. If you're looking to try to attract, let's say you're looking to move more into transmission type business, and you start really highlighting that on your website, then from a SEO standpoint, you are going to be more likely to attract more transmission business in your city or your town. Similarly, if you start putting out in your marketing, let's say if you're doing any sort of advertising or mailing, advertising in books, newspapers, whatever it might be, if you start putting in there that you specialize in transmission type work, then you are more likely to attract more of that transmission type work. So identify those things that you want to attract more of, and then you can utilize that. And what you want to consider, obviously profitability is important, skills, all those things are important. But think about your market as well. If you were to specialize in these 3 to 4 things, would your market support that? Meaning, is there enough business? Are there enough motorists? Would you have enough customers, right, to support that business? Again, whatever that might be. That might be 4x4. That might be diesel. That might be various different things. But you want to think about it from that standpoint. Okay, if we want to draw more of this work, let's make sure that our marketing highlights those things. Because if all your marketing shows is that you are, general auto repair, then chances are you're going to attract general auto repair business. But if you start really focusing on those specializations and you think that through, you're going to attract more of that business, and that's going to play to your strengths. It's likely going to mean that you're happier. It's likely going to mean that your employees are happier. It's likely going to mean that your customers are happier. And all of those things are very good.
So as a follow-up question with that, if you're saying tailor your marketing, do you mean when I look at someone's front page of their website, they can have like main headers or scrolling images with text on there that would be related to, normally some people will talk about just general auto repair, but if you can be very specific on your website for like those call to actions that we talked about in a podcast previously? Like, are those the type of places on your site that you mean by tailoring your website to those specialization services?
Absolutely. Yes, that's a place that you would do that. Other things you could do is make sure that's included in your description in your Google My Business profile.
That's
So make
great.
sure
People
you've got
always
those.
forget about their Google My Business. I cut you off.
Totally true. No, totally true. You want to do it that way. Make sure that you're highlighting transmission related information in like educational things in your Facebook posts so people are seeing that. They might be thinking about it from that way. And again, I had mentioned, advertising, mailing, any of those things as well. But make sure you're emphasizing that and all those things, because unfortunately, we'll talk to a lot of shops where we say, hey, do you know what business would you want more of? And oftentimes they can name us three or four things. And then we'll ask, well, what are you doing to emphasize that in your marketing? And they're not doing anything. So it's like a magnet almost, marketing when it works well, right? So you take that magnet to attract the things that you want. And if your marketing is put together in a certain way, that's what it's going to attract. And if your marketing is just put together for you as just general auto repair, you're going to attract just general auto repair. But if your marketing is focused on being specialized or on your strengths, then you're more likely to attract that type of business.
And the type of business that you are trying to attract and putting them on your Google My Business, Facebook, and your website, that's kind of the big point to start. So if you are big into transmission or diagnostics, German cars, so on, that's really where you want to start, because whatever you are posting online and is visible to your customers, that's going to be what they see, and then more likely to reach out to you about it. Like, right? I mean, that's just obvious.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and like those are good places. We've mentioned a few different places, but just take it as a blanket statement. Wherever or however you're doing your marketing, make sure that you're emphasizing those services or the makes, models, etc. Those 2 to 3 things where you want to do more of that business, where you would say, if all we did in our shop were these 3 to 4 things, we would all be happy and it would work out great for us.
So they chose the 3 to 4 things like you talked about. But what about the other customers who are still happen to be calling and they still need a shop service that may or may not be one of those top 3 to 4? Like, how should a shop owner handle that?
Well, and I should say too, Bekah, because I've thrown out a few different numbers. I've probably said 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. The most important thing is if you can whittle that down to the smallest number possible, that's going to work best for you. If you can determine that in your market, in your town, in your city, that if you just focused on transmission work, there is enough business for your shop to be successful financially, as a business, all of those things, then that's awesome. If there's not, then you need to expand that out a little bit. So whatever makes the most sense, you want to try to bring that down to the smallest possible differentiation or specialization, whatever you want to call that. So again, as that number starts to expand, as we move from 2 to 3 and now 3 to 4, and if you talk about 4 to 5, and again, I mentioned all those numbers, so I'm pointing the finger at me. That becomes a lot less specialized, like that you no longer have a differentiator. So you do want to focus it down as much as possible.
Even if you do specialize in one specific, like let's transmission again, it doesn't mean you don't do other work. It just means maybe you're highlighting more of transmission online.
Yes.
I mean, that's the point of it.
Yes, absolutely. And to answer the question that you had asked before I started talking about those numbers, which is a great question, you could still do those jobs if you want to. And to your question, what do you tell somebody who might call you and ask you for those types of services that you would consider less desirable or maybe you don't want as much? A good way to do it, and I know it's hard to say no. Somebody wants to bring their car to your shop. for probably your entire life, you're thinking, yes, let them, because that could turn into other things, and it very well could. But if you have somebody who's just looking for something simple, it's not, or it's not something that you're really good at, you can always still schedule them and just give them a time that's further out. If you're slammed, if you're busy, you don't have to tell them that you'll see their card on Tuesday. You could tell them it's going to be the first Tuesday of next month or something like that. And likely they're going to understand, and in their mind they're thinking, wow, this shop's really busy, or they must really be good because they're this far out. And they're likely going to schedule it with somebody else, and that's going to be fine, right?
Yeah,
If
definitely.
if it's one of your good customers though, and they want to bring it in, then you do want to make the time for them. You do want to treat them well, like you would, even if it's something it's not on your top 2 or 3 list, because you know that they're a good customer. You want to keep them. You want to serve them well. You want to help them out. So certainly, in those cases. But if it's somebody that's calling kind of out of the blue or never been a customer, you don't know enough about them, and maybe they're looking for something you don't want to do as much, then fair. I would say schedule them further out and see if they still want to do it. And chances are that they may not want to wait. And if they do, then maybe they could be a good customer, and then that works out well also.
Yeah, this is a topic for another day, but I have to say that relationships are huge in business, obviously. So taking this and really helping your best customers out, kind of giving them that priority will take you a long ways. But with all that being said, at this point, it's roaring with business. I mean, you might be a shop who is struggling because you don't either have enough techs or you are so overloaded with the work that's coming in. And you have to remember that it's quality over quantity if you're going to specialize in something. So it's okay to be selective. Like, you can say no, like that is all right, even though we get that that's hard because we have a hard time saying no to things. But you really do want to focus on those jobs that you want to be known for and be as specialized as you possibly can if your market calls for it, right?
Absolutely. And the other point that goes along with that is there'll be a lot of people who might say, hey, business is great right now. I'm not going to focus on marketing, or I'm not going to spend money on marketing, or I'm not going to worry about that because things are good. We couldn't take more business if it came in. And I understand why you might think that, but that's people have it wrong when it comes to that. Now is exactly the time to invest in these things so that as your business is running well, you are starting to put that word out about your real specializations if you haven't done that in the past. And you now have more of that cash to invest in marketing that's going to help you when things start to slow down. So you have it as a more steady instead of more of a roller coaster type of a thing. So now is a great time to really think through this. And then the other point is this you can get a read on it. Hey, if I decided that all I wanted to do was focus on these 2 or 3 things, and if somebody wants to bring in their vehicles for those 2 or 3 services, it's a yes, and we'll do it. And if somebody's looking for something else, I'm either going to push them off or refer them out. Then you will get a good feel for whether your market can sustain that type of business and whether you can make a full focus or a full changeover to just those specific specializations. So I know you're super busy, and it's hard because there are a lot of shop owners who are having to spend a lot of their time in the shop working because of the challenges with techs. But any time that you can invest in thinking through these things and working on your business instead of in it will absolutely pay off in the short term and in the long term.
If they're doing well right now financially, like that is a good time to be able to spend money because you can hopefully be more comfortable with where you are with marketing, especially. So just to hit that one, really nail that one into the head of like, this is your time to maybe explore different avenues and opportunities, just like you said, to see if your market can handle it as well.
Yes, absolutely correct. And the reason that, as we mentioned, it's so good is because you are doing well, right? unfortunately, many businesses, certainly not just repair shops, don't wait until or they will wait until all of a sudden business is way down to decide, oh, I need to do something to get more business. And of course, it's a lot harder to spend that money at that time than it was or would be when you are doing well. So consider that for sure as another important piece. And I would say, hopefully you found this podcast to be really beneficial and informative. We tried to cover some topics related to being, as we would say, slammed. That's what we hear. The shops are slammed. So just trying to help you think through how you might be able to use that as a further opportunity, really, to position yourself and your business to be successful in the future. We'd love to have you subscribe to the podcast, so please do that. You can subscribe anywhere you typically listen to podcasts, either on Apple, Spotify. There's lots of good podcast providers. And if you have any questions or if we can be of any further help, please feel free to reach out to us. We love talking to shop owners. We love trying to help you all be as successful as you possibly can. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, and thank you again for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Busy Bays podcast. If you want more information about this, please visit myrsw.com and go to our resource center. We plan on hosting a podcast each month, so subscribe so you don't miss out. Also, I just have one last favor to ask of you. It would mean a lot to us if you would share this with your friends or another shop. Our goal is to help auto repair shops succeed, so you can help us achieve this goal by just telling someone else about the show. Thanks again. Have a great day.